There is a shelf in almost every old garage in America that nobody touches. It sits above the workbench covered in dust, and on it are rows of old oil cans. Round ones, square ones, some with spouts, some with screw caps. They have been there so long that the paint has faded and the metal has rusted through in spots. Most people look at that shelf and see nothing but garbage, old containers that held motor oil 30 or 40 years ago. But last year, a single vintage oil can sold at auction for $12,000. Not because it still contained oil, not because it was made of precious metal, because it had the right brand name printed on the side and the right year on the tin. And when that auction result hit the internet, collectors started driving across state lines to visit estate sales and barn auctions, combing through boxes of old garage junk. Because here is what almost nobody realizes about vintage oil cans. In the 1950s and 60s, oil companies competed with each other through design. The cans were printed in brilliant colors, with bold logos and detailed illustrations, because they sat on service station shelves. Each brand had its own visual identity. Mobil had the red Pegasus. Sinclair had the green Dinosaur. Texaco had the Star. And when those companies changed their designs or went out of business, the old cans became instant relics. Most were thrown away or recycled as scrap metal. The ones that survived are now some of the most sought-after pieces of petroliana in the world. Most old oil cans sell for $10 or $15 at flea markets, but a handful of specific brands and rare variants sell for hundreds, and the rarest ones climb into 5 figures. The difference is a color, a label variation, and a couple of details that collectors memorize the way other people memorize baseball stats. And they are quietly buying these up at every farm auction and estate cleanout in the country, hoping you never learn what is sitting on that dusty shelf. Today I am counting down the 8 vintage oil cans that could be hiding in your garage right now, all the way to the most valuable of them all. And stay to the end, because there is a bonus can so rare that only 3 are known to exist, and most collectors have never even seen one. So before we go any further, go to your garage right now and look at every shelf, every box, every corner where old containers might be stacked. Pull down every oil can you can find, then look at each one carefully, because the brand, the color, and the design printed on that metal are about to tell you everything. One quick rule before we start. Real collectible oil cans were made before the 1980s, when oil companies still used lithograph tin. After that, the industry switched to plastic bottles and paper labels that have no collector value at all. So the metal ones, the ones that ring when you flick them with your finger, those are the ones that matter. Let us start the countdown at number 8. Number 8 is the most recognizable oil can in American history. Number 8, the Mobil Pegasus 1-quart can. If you have ever been to a vintage gas station or a car show, you have seen the red-winged horse. The Mobil Pegasus was one of the most successful corporate logos of the 20th century, and it appeared on millions of oil cans from the 1920s through the 70s. And because so many were produced, most people assume they are worthless. Usually they are close to right. A common Mobil Pegasus can with faded paint and dents sells for maybe $10 to $25. But here is the insider secret. The ones that matter are the pre-1960 cans with the raised embossed Pegasus design. So look at yours and run your finger over the horse. If you can feel the wing detail standing out from the surface, it is an older, more desirable can, worth noticeably more, especially with the original cap still attached. The most famous oil can in America still hides value if you know which version you are holding. Number 7 was made for a company that disappeared half a century ago. Number 7, the Sinclair Dinosaur 1-quart can. This one is impossible to miss. A bright green can with a smiling green dinosaur printed on the side and the word Sinclair across the top. The dinosaur was the Sinclair logo for decades, and it has become one of the most beloved pieces of petroliana among collectors. But Sinclair stopped using the dinosaur design in the late 1960s, and the company was eventually absorbed by a larger corporation. Now I am going to be honest with you here, because accuracy matters. On its own, a common Sinclair Dinosaur can is not a jackpot. A rough one might sell for $20 to $40, but it is a discontinued brand with a beloved mascot, which means complete cans with bright unfaded green paint are the ones collectors chase, and those climb well beyond the faded examples. The lesson of number 7 is the one that runs through this entire list. Discontinued brand plus a beloved character is exactly the combination that hides value, because everyone assumes it is just a decorative tin. Number 6 looks like a piece of modern art, and almost nobody recognizes it. Number 6, the Esso Extra Gold Can. Picture a tall 1-quart can with a rich gold metallic finish and the word Esso printed in bold blue letters across the center. Esso was the international brand name for Standard Oil, and the Gold Extra line was their premium product sold throughout the 1950s and 60s. The gold finish was achieved through a specialized lithography process that created a mirror-like metallic sheen, unlike anything else on the market. Turn the can over and look for the manufacturer code printed on the bottom seam. A genuine Esso Extra Gold can typically sells in the range of $50 to $150, and cans with the original paper seal still over the cap can push toward $200. The tell is unmistakable. That gold metallic finish that still shines even after decades on a dusty shelf. If you have a gold can with blue lettering, you are not holding a piece of junk. You are holding one of the most beautiful pieces of industrial design the oil industry ever produced. Number 5 was only distributed in one region of the country. Number 5, the Richfield Lion can. This one features a golden lion standing on a rock with a bold blue and yellow color scheme. Richfield was a West Coast oil company that operated primarily in California, Oregon, and Washington. It never had national distribution, which means its cans were produced in far smaller numbers than the major brands. That regional scarcity is the whole story, because the fewer states a can was sold in, the fewer examples exist today, and the more collectors are willing to pay. A Richfield Lion can sells in the range of $75 to $200, depending on condition and the specific size. Complete sets of different sizes with matching designs can push even higher. A short regional run and a striking lion logo is a quiet recipe for value. Collectors call a can like this a sleeper, because it flies completely under the radar of the average person. Number 4 had one of the shortest production runs of any oil can on this entire list. Number 4, the 1968 Phillips 66 Aviation Oil Can. This one features the distinctive orange and black Phillips shield logo on a tall square can with aviation grade printed across the top. It was produced for only about 2 years and only for aviation use, meaning it was sold at small airfields and airstrips, not at corner gas stations. In a hobby where some oil can designs ran for 20 years, a 2-year aviation-only run is almost nothing. Phillips aviation cans sell in the range of $150 to $400, with unopened examples commanding the higher end. One important warning here. There are reproduction Phillips cans with a similar look, so do not confuse the two. The original has specific tin gauge weight and period-correct soldering on the seams. When a can was only made for a couple of years for a niche market, every surviving piece is a small part of a very short story. Number 3 is where we cross into serious money. And by now, you can see exactly what is happening here. The valuable oil cans almost never look valuable. They look old. They look rusty. They look like the can you would grab last at a flea market. The more obscure the brand and the shorter the run, the more a collector quietly wants it. From here, the numbers climb fast, and the last 3 are the ones that make people gasp. Number 3, the vintage Castrol GTX Racing Can. Castrol was the oil of choice for European sports car racing, and their green and red cans with the checkered flag design are legendary among collectors. But the ones that matter are the limited edition race promotion cans from the late 1960s and early 70s. These were printed in small batches for specific races and events, and most were thrown away after the oil was used. A genuine Castrol Racing promotion can sells in the range of $200 to $500. Unopened examples with the original seal have pushed past $800. These cans were never sold to the public. They were distributed only to race teams, so finding one in any condition is extremely rare. If you have a green Castrol can with a checkered flag sitting on a shelf, you are no longer holding a $10 tin. You are holding a piece of racing history. Number 2 is so rare that most collectors have never held one. Number 2, the 1953 Gulf No-Knox display can, and this one is special because it was never meant to be sold at all. It was a counter display piece, a large decorative can printed with the Gulf orange and blue disc logo that sat on the counter at service stations to advertise the new No-Knox gasoline additive. When the promotion ended, the displays were thrown away. Almost none survived. The few that survived are now holy grail pieces. Individual display cans sell in the $1,000 to $3,000 range, and pristine examples with no fading or dents have reached $5,000. The tell is unmistakable. An oversized can with the Gulf disc logo and no spout or cap, because it was never a real container. If you have a large Gulf can with no opening on top, whatever you do, do not throw it away. But none of these, not even the Gulf display can, is the single most famous oil can hiding in American garages. First, the one mistake that destroys all of this value and the difference that fools almost everyone. Because here is how people lose the value without even realizing it, and it comes down to one word: condition. The oil cans that collectors want have never been cleaned, polished, or repainted. After 1990, the hobby exploded with restored cans that were repainted and relithographed to look almost identical to the originals. So how do you tell them apart in your own garage? Look at the paint closely. Genuine vintage lithography has a specific texture with fine cracking and oxidation that develops naturally over decades. Repaints look too smooth and too vibrant. Original patina is worth more than a perfect repaint every single time. The second trap is the hype itself. You have probably seen headlines about oil cans selling for $5,000 or $12,000. Here is the truth. Those are the 1%. Most old oil cans are common and sell for $10 or $15 as shelf decoration. The real money lives only in the specific rare brands, the one-year-only designs, and the display pieces in original condition. So never trust a listing price, only trust what cans have actually sold for. So here is exactly what to do. First, pick up every can and look at the brand name and the design printed on the metal. Second, check for originality. Original paint with honest patina is worth far more than a perfect repaint. Third, chase the regional and discontinued brands. Fourth, completeness is everything. Original caps and seals multiply the value. And fifth, when you find a can from this list, search the sold listings, not the ones still for sale, because sold prices are honest. Which finally brings us to number one. Number one, the 1955 Shell X100 promotional can. Shell introduced the X100 premium oil line in the mid-1950s, and to launch it they produced a limited run of promotional display cans with the famous yellow and red Shell scallop logo printed in brilliant four-color lithography. Fewer than 500 were made, and most were used in a single national advertising campaign before being discarded. A genuine Shell X100 promotional can, in original condition, sold for $12,000. That sale went so viral it sent collectors tearing through every garage and gas station collection in the country. Now, I promised you the truth, so here it is. Most Shell cans are common and sell for $20 to $50, but the X100 promotional piece is the exception. It was produced in tiny numbers for a short campaign, and almost none survived. That is the can from the very start of this video, the one sitting on the dusty shelf, the container people once sold for the price of a used car. And remember the bonus I promised. Even rarer than anything on this list is a can from the 1948 Tidewater Oil Flying A brand. A red and white can with a stylized letter A with wings, produced for less than 6 months. Only 3 are known to exist, and most collectors have only seen them in photographs. If you ever spot a red and white can with a winged A on it, look very, very carefully. So go check every shelf in your garage, pick up every old oil can, read the brand names, and look at the colors carefully. Because the only thing standing between you and a small fortune sitting on your own workbench is simply knowing what you are looking at. Collectors already know. Now you do too.